Hello, good evening. An historic election, the biggest shake-up in the running of Midlands police forces in more than 50 years, but hardly anyone bothered to turn out and vote for police and crime commissioners. In Staffordshire, the turnout was just under 12%.
But the job of commissioner is a big one. He or she takes control of multi-million-pound police budgets. They can hire and fire the chief constable. The government said the idea was to let ordinary people have a say via one elected official. John Willits reports on the West Midlands count, a warning the report contains flash photography throughout.
Polling stations opened yesterday morning on a dark and foggy winter's day, but critics had already warned it wasn't just the weather which risked putting voters off. Just how much did people know about who and what they were voting for? As counting got underway at Birmingham's ICC this morning, a similar story was emerging across the region. A record low number of people turned out to vote in this election. Just over 12% of people in the West Midlands police area cast their vote yesterday. That's around a fifth of the average turnouts for the region in the general election 2 years ago. After a second round of counts, it was Labour's Bob Jones who was declared the winner.
And therefore, Bob Jones is duly elected as Police and Crime Commissioner for the West Midlands police area.
And he wasted no time in meeting the West Midlands Chief Constable outside the force's headquarters. It is Bob Jones who will now be telling Chris Sims what he thinks the policing priorities in the region should be.
Clearly, when you've got over 100,000 people having voted for you and almost 250,000 participating in this election, that is a bigger vote and a bigger mandate than the Prime Minister, any members of the Cabinet. And clearly, I think it is my duty and responsibility to make sure the voice of the community is heard.
Are you looking forward to working with Bob Jones?
Very much so, yes. We're obviously going to start talking very soon and get down to business. And I think we're both looking forward to working. We've known each other a long time, and it should be, I think, a very fruitful partnership.
In Coventry, the turnout for this election was nearer 10%. One candidate received fewer votes than the number of spoiled ballot papers. So with such a low turnout, how effective a mandate will the police and crime commissioners have?
You can only do things on behalf of people with their support. And if people think that the job is a waste of time, it's going to be very difficult for the new Police and Crime Commissioner to be able to alter things and to change the perception that people have.
So all smiles this afternoon as a new way of policing is born, but doubts remain over how effective it will be. John Willits for Central Tonight.
Well, with us now is our political correspondent, Alison Mackenzie. Alison, what does the picture look like elsewhere in the region?
Well, yes, we saw John there in the West Midlands, but I have results for you now of the other three authority areas in our patch. Warwickshire, the winner there, Ronald Ball, an independent candidate. In Staffordshire, Matthew Ellis, the Conservative candidate, he wins there. And in West Mercia, Bill Longmore, another independent. And that was what the government was wanting, more independents coming through. Of course, these elections have cost £100 million. But what about that low turnout? Let's look at some of those figures. Well, we have in Warwickshire a typical turnout, 15.65%, not good. But drill down into some of those more, closer figures. Stoke-on-Trent in Staffordshire, for example, 9.46 people bothered to turn out and vote. And in Redditch in the West Mercia area, 12.26%, slightly higher, but still not good. And an example there of some of the spoiled ballot papers. 356 had marks or were spoiled, couldn't be counted, and that has been a result, Lucy, of some people saying we're not interested in taking part in this system.
So why is that? Why the apathy? Why are people so unwilling to vote?
Well, yes, that's come through loud and clear in this, of course. Some people saying, what are police and crime commissioners? They didn't even know what they were meant to be replacing, which was police authorities, saying without the knowledge, how can we make a valid vote and a decision? Some saying they couldn't get through on that 0800 number to find out. So a general lack of knowledge, lack of concern, lack of even being interested to go and see to place a vote. Well, it's been condemned tonight by the Electoral Reform Society, who had this to say about the whole system.
These elections have been a shambles from the beginning until the end, and really what's happened is that at every point where the government could have acted to improve the election organisation, they've made it worse. And that's meant that voters have been poorly served, it's made it very hard for candidates, and it's cast a real pall over how effective these roles can be.
And it's now the role of the government. It was a coalition idea to have police and crime commissioners. David Cameron keen to say yes, stick with it, it will get better.
Turnout was always going to be low when you're electing a new post for the first time. But remember, these police and crime commissioners are replacing organisations that weren't directly elected at all. And for the first time, people are going to have a local law and order champion.
As he's saying that, of course, he knows another thumping tonight for the coalition government. The Conservatives losing that Corby seat in the East Midlands. So a big bashing for them. Not a great day for democracy for the coalition government.
Well, thank you for that roundup, Alison. We heard what the Prime Minister thought there, and we'll have your views on the election later in the programme.
And in case you missed any of that, you can find a full roundup of today's results on our website. ITV.com/central is where you can find updates for the whole of the region in terms of those results today. Now, a woman